we all kind of changed our relationship with time. We all care about time and how we spend it more than we used to, because the pandemic taught us that nothing's guaranteed, right? Tomorrow's not promised. And we all kind of were reminded that we only have 1,440 minutes a day. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. You can't buy more. You can't make more. I think time is actually the only resource on this planet that we actually share equally.
Hey, what's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to hear amazing stories and really learn how you can grow and scale your agency faster. On today's episode, I have a repeat guest, Baer. We're going to talk about really kind of how you can have a competitive advantage and what are the levers that you can pull that will work in the next year to 2 years, because things change really quickly. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Jay, welcome to the show.
Great to see you, my friend. Nice to be back. Thanks for having me back. Hey, everybody.
Yep, excited to have you on. Hopefully that intro was quick enough, because I think we'll get into it.
It was a quick intro. I will acknowledge that. I do appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always hate getting on shows, and then the intro is like a minute, and it's like speaker, author, influencer, and it's like, good God, get to the fucking shit. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, for the people that have not heard of you yet, living under a rock, who are you, what you do?
Yeah, author, speaker, influencer. So I'm Baer. Spent 30 years as a business growth, customer experience, and marketing expert. I've written now 7 business books. I'm in the Professional Speaking Hall of Fame. I've owned a series of agencies for most of that 30 years, but just sold my global consulting firm about 18 months ago. So I am currently Sans Agency, and that's sort of good news, bad news.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of get into kind of how agencies can, really kind of use your framework to create a competitive advantage for the next couple of years. Yeah. So walk us through the framework, or walk us why they need to pay attention to this framework.
So here's the thing. I write a new book and a new speech, et cetera, every couple, 3 years. And as you talked about earlier, it's because customer behavior changes and what people need changes, and your competitive advantage changes, because you can have a competitive advantage, but then eventually your competition figures it out and they do it too, and then it's no longer an advantage, right? So I've written books about the power of social media and that you should be doing that, and about the power of content marketing, the power of word of mouth, the power of customer service. So I've written a lot of books that apply to agencies about what sort of competitive knob you should twist in that 2 or 3 year time horizon. And my initial observation this time, Jason, was that coming out of the pandemic, we all kind of changed our relationship with time. We all care about time and how we spend it more than we used to, because the pandemic taught us that nothing's guaranteed, right? Tomorrow's not promised. And we all kind of were reminded that we only have 1,440 minutes a day. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. You can't buy more. You can't make more. I think time is actually the only resource on this planet that we actually share equally. And a lot of these trends that we talk about now in business, things like quiet quitting, great resignation, team members not wanting to come back to the office, they don't want to commute, they want to spend time with more kids. Leisure travel, you talked about this on the show. It's the combination of business and leisure travel. So you bring your kids to the conference and double dip the trip. Even baseball. Right, you got a pitch clock now in baseball games. So the average major league game is 26 minutes a night shorter than it used to be. And people love it, because
I'm very happy about that.
Oh my God. Like, you're like, oh wait, I've been spending an extra 26 minutes watching dudes scratch their nuts. This is why dumb. All right. So all of this stuff is the same trend. It's all the same trend, which is that we care about time and how we spend it more than we used to. So based on that, I did a huge research project, the most comprehensive research really ever conducted in the US, on the relationship between responsiveness and revenue. And it turns out that if you are faster and you sort of give your customers time, they will give you money. And if you cost your customers time, It will cost you money. Shockingly, 2/3 of customers say now that speed is as important as price. And I think all of us, especially busy agency owners, feel that when we put on our customer hat. We want it right now. But then we're working with our clients, we don't give it to them right now. So we're like, wait a second, we know we want this, yet we don't organize our agencies to necessarily deliver this. Why the disconnect? So that's what the book is about. It's called The Time to Win, How to Exceed Your Customer's Need for Speed. And the whole idea is how to use responsiveness in your business as a distinct competitive advantage. The fastest business, all else being equal, will win right now.
Well, I think that's true going back to when I had the first agency. Our business was really built on AdWords and Overture for those old people out there like us,
Overture,
right?
man, you're
That
a go-to before that even. Yeah.
And then Netscape Composer, right? Like, so our business was built on this. And so when people would submit a form on our website, I would literally call them back while they're still on the website, because there were so many people that would call them back a week later, or they would act like that movie Swingers. You remember? He's like, when should I call the girl? And everyone's like, 2 weeks. I'm like, no, call it right now.
Oh, exactly. That's such a good analogy. I love it.
So tell us a little bit more about, we're talking about responsiveness. How can agencies be like, outside of the example I just said of like, when someone says, hey, I need something, responding a little bit faster, or maybe is it more about expectation?
It really is, because there are circumstances when you can be too fast, right? There are scenarios where if you're so fast, people start to distrust it. So I'll give an example. I'm sure many folks out there either have some kind of a chatbot on their site, or they've worked on chatbots for clients, etc. Drift is a software company that powers a lot of the chatbots in B2B. Drift actually programs a 3-second artificial delay in their chatbot response sequence. When you go and you type in a question to a chatbot, it's all AI, right? So it can respond in the blink of an eye. But when it does that, people are like, well, wait a second, that was awfully quick. They didn't even read my question. That must be a robot. I don't trust this information because it's a robot. So what they did, now you hit submit on your question and you get the little animated 3 dots, like bloop, 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 and then you get the answer. You're like, oh, well, that's fine. Somebody obviously typed that out. Nothing's changed other than it's 3 seconds slower. So what I call that in the book, Jason, is the right now. For every client interaction in your agency, top funnel, mid funnel, low funnel, previous client, long-standing client, doesn't matter if it's an invoice, proposal, deliverable, for everything in your business, there is a perfect amount of elapsed time. Not too fast, and certainly not too slow. The right now. It's like the Goldilocks zone for response.
I was going to say the Goldilocks.
So one of the best things you can do is kind of figure out what the right now is for your business, right? And that takes some testing and optimization. So for agencies in particular, and I know that this is true because I did it for most of my career, the first piece of the Time to Win framework that I talk about in the book, the first piece of the framework is to perform what I call a got it audit. So a got it audit asks you to figure out, how long does it take your clients to get it? How long does it take your client to get an invoice, to pay a bill, to get a proposal, to get a report, to get a meeting set up with their strategist, to whatever the things that you do, right? To get a commercial shot, whatever type of flavor of agency you are, how long does it take? Now, that question probably sounds very basic and very rudimentary, except, and you'll know this to be true, Jason, it's not. Because when you ask an agency owner, how long does it take to get an analytics report spun up for a client? Here's what they say. Well, Jay, usually it takes a week, but sometimes it could be 2 weeks if somebody's out of town. And if somebody else is on assignment, it might be 3 weeks. If everything goes perfectly, it could be 4 days. But if Billy's out of town and he's usually the chief analytics guy, it could be 6 days. And I'm like, whoa. That is not a number. That is a series of stories that you've told yourself. Anecdotes are not data. So if you're going to figure out what is the perfect amount of elapsed time, you have to know the actual numbers. You have to know, on average, median and mean, how long does it take us to produce XYZ, to do XYZ? Because right now, the perfect amount of time is, and always is, just slightly faster than the client expects. They think it'll take you a week, you deliver it in 6 days. If they think it will take 2 weeks, you deliver it in 13 days. If they think it'll take 2 weeks and you deliver it in a day, that's too fast. Then they're suspicious, right? That's when you get enchiladas at a Mexican food restaurant and they bring you enchiladas in like 1 minute. You're like, wait a second.
Did you microwave that?
That was too fast. Like they already had those made. They have an enchilada machine, right? And your trust goes down, right? So that's the first piece of the framework, is to do this got it audit and to really lean into, agencies that are good at timesheet management and project tracking should, in theory, if the data is good, be better at got it audit, but it requires an actual initiative to figure this out. That's the first piece.
Yeah. Hint, and thank you for saying to everyone, you need to report your time, not to your clients, but internal, so you can see if you're losing money or making money. Cool.
And you can report it accurately, right? That's the thing. People do a little like, yeah, whatever. It was probably 5 hours. It might have been 4. It might have been 7. Garbage in, garbage out, man.
Yeah. You hope your pilot for your next airline is not doing that. You hope they're paying attention
the
to
weight's
details.
approximately 100 pounds. It might be 200. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Approximately 3/4 of a tank of fuel, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm about to get my pilot's license, and I've always been that mentality. And now it's like, no. Like, and I'm thinking about how do you apply this to business? Mm-hmm. And you got to be methodical or you die. And if you treat that more like that for your agency, it's amazing how much more successful you'll be. So what's number 2?
So one of the other ones that we talk about in the book, The Time to Win, is something that you should apply not only in your own business, but in your own life. And you should train everybody in your team to do this. I call it respond without answers. So what happens invariably, especially in an agency situation, client or prospective client contacts you, or even a vendor partner, and they've got some sort of question, and it's kind of a weird one. So you don't know the answer. So what do? Well, you go find the answer. You go look it up. You talk to Susan in accounting. You talk to Bob in traffic, like whatever the deal has to be to get the information. You go do those things, or maybe even pass it off to somebody else in the organization because they're a better person to address the question, whatever. You go get the information. And then once you have the information, you respond to the person who asked the question. Don't do that anymore. Stop doing that. Because the entire time that you're out there researching, asking, checking, figuring, the person who asked the question is freaking out. Here's how I know this to be true. If I send somebody an email and they don't get back to me in like 2 days, everybody does this. You start playing these mental games. Do I have Jason's email wrong? Is for some reason my email to Jason going to spam? Is Jason on vacation but didn't set out of office? Is Jason somehow mad at me? Should I follow up my email with a phone call, or does that make me seem sad and desperate? Like all of this like psychology starts to weigh down on you. Whereas the much better approach is I ask you a question, you don't immediately know the answer. You say, Jay, great question. So great, in fact, I got to look it up. I'm going to go do that, and then I'll get back to you. But the second that you respond, it takes it off of my mental to-do list, and I can put it on your to-do list. And the psychology of that is massive, and 2 things happen. 1, it dramatically increases how fast and responsive you appear to me. And 2, it actually buys you more time to do the thing because I know that you're on it, right? And so every time somebody asks me something, I say, I'm on it. I'll get back to you. Now, this means you got to respond to everybody twice. I get that. But the first time, it's all you're saying is, I got it. It's a 1-sentence email, tiny voicemail, text message, whatever. All you're saying is, I got it. And I'm telling you, people, not only will this make your agency run better, your spouse will like you more, your kids will like you more, your mailman will like you more. Like, this works universally. I've been doing it for like 2 years. Huge impact on my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you were saying, like, we send it and then we are going and telling ourselves all those stories.
Yep. Freaking out.
Yeah. And I always hated when we were building our house out here, I would ask a question and it would take forever for them to respond. And if they just did that, saying, hey, I'm on it, let me get back to you in 2 days. Cool. Then I would expect an answer in 2 days, and then they could answer me in a day. And then they check the box on number 1 too. So
as soon as you tell them, it just changes how they think about the entire interaction. And I want to just take a second here to make sure agencies understand that this isn't just about being quick initially. You should be. In fact, the data show that I did for the report that powers the book, 50% of clients will hire whomever gets back to them first, regardless of price. Half. So that being the case, if I was still running a biz dev team, I'd be like, here's what's going to happen. You are going to be the first responder, period, right? Like, I don't care what we got to do, but we're going to be first. But I think more importantly is that the agency business is about retention. You have to stop losing clients if you're going to grow your business. And speed and responsiveness and the perception of your responsiveness has a massive impact on client retention. In fact, 85% of clients say that responsiveness is a critical factor in their loyalty. How can this be true? Well, again, this is all about psychology. We live in an era where we interpret speed as caring, and we interpret responsiveness as respect. If you go try and hire a painter and you leave them a voicemail about painting your house and they don't get back to you for a week, you're like, well, wait a second. If it takes them a week to get back to me before they have my money, they're certainly not going to be very responsive once they have my money.
Nope.
And so you've got to have this climate of responsiveness throughout the totality of the client journey in order to get them to continue to renew their contract with you.
Yeah, no, I love it. What are the rest of the systems? What's the next system in the framework?
So one of the ones, I probably won't do all of them just for time, but sure. But one of the ones that I think is really important for agencies, and this is the one, when I was writing the book, I was like, you idiot. Like, I realized like how bad I was at this when I owned my most recent agency.
That happens all the time where we give advice to others and then we're like, we're the hypocrite.
Yeah, usually I try to not do that. But in this case, looking backwards, I was like, oh, that's why that was a problem. Huh. So we were a strategy firm, still are a strategy firm. I just don't own it. Convince to convert. Big clients, enterprise clients, high dollar, bespoke strategy, marketing strategy, customer experience strategy, customer service strategy, etc. Big clients would pay us a bunch of money. We would go into the metaphorical workshop and come out with a strategy 75 to 90 days later. Work was terrific. Clients loved it. Very successful firm. But I realize now, looking backwards, that the entire time we were doing the strategy, the clients were like, what the heck is going on? Did these guys steal my money? Did they move to Barbados?
Because it's 90 days later.
We had exceptionally detailed internal project plans. So we knew what we had to do every single day in order to hit the deadline. And we never missed a deadline. 13 years, never missed a deadline. So we had it dialed in and buttoned up on our side, but we never let the client see any of that. They would write us a check. They would hear nothing from us for 3 months. And then we would emerge like a butterfly from a chrysalis with a strategy in our hand. And they'd be like, okay, cool. We were wondering when that was going to happen. And so the way I talk about this in the book is called closing uncertainty gaps. So in every business, but agencies, I think as much as any business, there is an uncertainty gap. And I define the uncertainty gap as the difference between what you know about what's going on in your agency and what the client knows about what's going on in the agency. And you've got to do whatever you can to close that gap, because two things are true now more than ever. One, clients hate to wait. Two, clients hate not knowing what's going on. They won't tolerate it anymore, not like they used to. Like I used to literally say these words, oh, we don't need to tell the clients that. They don't need that much detail. Wrong. Let them tell you, oh, that's actually more detail than I want, but you offer them the daily status report or whatever is necessary, because the uncertainty gap is no longer tolerable. And it's because culturally, we now live in an era where uncertainty gaps have been closed for us by technology largely. So for an example, Jason, I think you and I are both old enough, I certainly am, to remember a time when you couldn't get transportation from an app.
Oh, yeah.
You would have to telephone a taxi. And you would literally, because we didn't even have mobile.
I remember phones. You had to have a quarter to do that.
Exactly. I would say that. You would take a quarter, you would put it in a payphone, and you would dial the phone number, and it was always like 2222222 somehow. So you just keep pressing twos, and then somebody would be like, "This is Lou." Like, what? And like, I need a ride to the airport. He'll be by to get you. Click. So the only information you were allowed to have is a guy named Lou said he'll be by to get you. Like that was it. When's he coming? Don't know. How much is it going to cost? Don't know. Which taxi is your taxi? Don't know. Is this guy a murderer? Don't know. Maybe. Like no information. And that's all we could do. And now, of course, you get, a car on Lyft or Uber, and you know everything. You've got this guy's blood type, and you've got a ancestry.com printout, and you can like watch the car.
Hey, you're my cousin.
Yeah. You're like, oh, don't go left there. It's a one way. You're like coaching them. I mean, it's crazy, right? So you know everything. And this is happening all the time. Get a pizza from Domino's, the pizza tracker. I'm getting push notifications that they're putting mushrooms on my pizza. There is no uncertainty. But yet in professional services, we sometimes fall in love with opacity. And we feel like the clients will respect and somehow oddly appreciate the fact that we've got this secret sauce that we can't tell them about. Wrong. We got to close the uncertainty gap wherever possible. And I was really bad at that. Unfortunately, I now realize.
Yeah. Well, it's when people, agencies are famous for ringing the bell or hitting, the gong when they sell someone. But the clients that just signed up, they're immediately going to buyer's remorse, going, did I make the right decision? And a lot of times I'll tell, some of our agency members, I'll be like, look, when you sign a deal, let's say you're doing Facebook ads, dude, what are the little wins you can create? Hey, Jay, I just installed the Facebook pixel. So, and this is what we'll do is now we can retarget everyone that's coming to your site. Oh, that's cool. And little wins throughout the process. Hey, we just designed, we put some mushrooms on your website or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Just let them know or map out. I think, mapping out a visual process so they understand what's going to happen. First week, we're going to do this. Second week, we're doing this. Third week, this way. And then we can all be on the same page. But we're all guilty of that.
Here's the last one I'll tell you in the framework. And I got to tell you, you're going to make so much money with this. I'm so excited. In the research, we actually studied this and found that 1 in 4 people will pay as much as 50% more to not wait. Every agency in history has a project sequence. It's just like a deli, but it's a deli of professional services. You're now serving number 32, now serving number 33, now serving number 34. Bigger, better agencies can serve more customers simultaneously, but there's always a stack ranked order of projects. Yes, of course. In most agencies, the order is the order. It's first in, first out. Don't do that.
I like where you're going with this.
If somebody needs, for whatever reason, instantaneous service, you should give it to them and charge them accordingly. Like I know for a fact how often, not only my own agencies, but lots of other agencies I've worked with, just turn down rush. We don't do rush jobs. We can't reconfigure our process to accommodate rush jobs. Call somebody else, hire somebody else. We can't do that one. There's all these reasons why the agency can't rejigger who's number one, who's number two, who's number three. That's wild. Go ahead and do it. You just charge them to do so. You put a 25% premium on it, and then they get to decide, is it actually that important to them? And what the data show is that in a shocking percentage of the time, they will actually pay you. Because remember, 2/3 of people say that speed is as important as price. Let them put that to the test. I was in Caesar's Palace recently doing a speech, and I go to check in, and every time you go to Vegas, they tell you the same thing. They say, oh, Mr. Baer, welcome. And as you know, check-in time is at 4. It's now 2:30. Come back at 4, and we'll try to give you keys to your room. Meanwhile, please lose as much money as possible on the casino floor. And this time, I get there. It's 2:30. Mr. Baer, welcome. As you know, check-in time's at 4. It's now 2:30. You can come back at 4, and we'll try to give you keys. Or, Mr. Baer, if you'd like to give us $30 additional, we could give you keys right now. Would you like to do that?
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I'll lose more than 30 in an hour and a half. That's a no-brainer. Like, here's my money, right? So everybody can do this. Now, I had somebody in an event I was at recently ask me, hey, Jay, I get the way you're saying about offering a fast pass. I think we could make a lot of money at that. But what happens when we've got the client who was going to be next and they get bumped back? I'm like, good question. Here's what you do. So you go to the client that needs instant service and you say, hey, we'll take you. You can be first instead of 7th. It's going to cost you 20% more. Okay. Then you go to the client that was first and is now second. And you say, I've got great news for you. We're going to deliver your project 3 days later than we agreed, but you're going to get a 5% discount on your invoice.
Oh, I like that.
Everybody's happy. You just made 15% for doing nothing other than reorganizing your project plan.
I really like that. What I thought you were going to say, and this is what we always did, and I would always taught my team, I was like, I always want you to extend out the timelines so we can go do it quicker, but we have some buffer in there. Because what we would do is we would do the fast pass. We never called it the fast pass. I like that. But we always had that extended buffer. But I like the discount because you're still making money on top of that. And a lot of agencies, they don't charge for that. And I mean, another great example that you probably know about, TSA, Clear, like when you're traveling, like they'll pay that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Disney has it. It's called Genie Plus, right? You pay more money and you get first in line for the rides at Disney theme parks. Same idea, and we're starting, and it's not accidental, right? You're starting to see fast passes be offered in lots of different market segments because it's such an easy way to gross up your revenue with literally no cost, none. I mean, look at emergency plumbers. They've been doing it for years, right? You got water spraying in your house. Yeah, we'll come. It's going to cost you more, but you're like, well, yeah, I get that because, you're coming right now and water spraying in my house. So take my money.
Yeah. I'll tell you the only way it doesn't work is when the people teaching me how to fly, they were like, you want the fast pass? I'm like, no.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want the fast pass from your cardiologist or tattoo artist. Yeah. There's definitely people. Yeah. That's where you get into that too fast, 60-second enchilada problem.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want the hot pockets. Those hurt.
No. So. Exactly. So that's it. That's the nature of this book, is that it's the thesis about, and really data. Again, this is like comprehensive proprietary research. You can't get it anywhere else about why this matters now, why now is the opportunity, not 3 years ago, and certainly not 3 years from now. That's first part. And then this 6-piece framework of things that you can literally put into practice right away that are going to materially change how fast your customers think you are and how much money you can make with responsiveness. I'll tell you this whole idea and this book will be pointless in 3 years. This conversation is going to be hilarious at some point because every agency in the world will do every single thing I recommend in this book. I guarantee it, because their clients will force them to do so.
Yeah.
You're going to do this. You're going to do every single thing I talked about in this book. My advice, though, is that if you do it now, before your competitors do it, you're going to have a 24 to 30 month head start where you can eat their lunch with speed and responsiveness as your competitive advantage. But you got to start pressing that advantage now. Don't wait.
Yeah, I love it. What's the name of the book again? So everyone can go check it out.
The book is The Time to Win, How to Exceed Your Customers' Need for Speed. The book itself is super short. You can read the whole book in 45 minutes. That's why it's only $9.95 on Amazon. And there's a reason for that. I've written 6 full-length business books. And when I sat down to write this one, I'm like, wait a second. I can't make somebody read 6 hours worth of business book about speed. That's literally counter to the entire premise of this book, right? So I said, look, people don't read business books anyway. They skim them. So let's just make a short book that you can read in under an hour that you will actually follow through with. And so far, people have gotten early copies of it or read the Kindle version. People love it. In fact, it is, as of today, 40 now perfect 5.0 reviews on Amazon. It is actually the highest rated book I've ever written of the 7, including a bunch of New York Times bestsellers. So I think we're on to something with the little book.
Awesome. Well, everyone go check out the book. Thanks so much, Jay, for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share it out with a friend, and make sure you go to swenk.it and make sure you never miss out on another episode. And until next time, have a swank day.